Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Oh Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. What number is there? Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 19, text number 17, the killing of the demon Hiranyaksha. Atorudasya janmayam yogamayeshvare haro yam vilokya prajastrasta me nireshopasamyamam atorudasya janmayam yogamayeshvare haro yam vilokya prajastasta me nirishopasamyamam atorudasya janmayam yogamayeshvare haro yam vilokya prajastrasta me nirishopasamyamam. Ladies, Ata then Uruda in many ways. Asyajat, he cast Mayam, conjuring tricks. Yogamaya Isvare, the Lord of Yogamaya. Haro et Hari, Yam, which Vilokya, after seeing Praja, the people, Trista, fearful, Menire, thought, Asya, of this universe, Upasamyama, to dissolution. Translation. The demon, however, employed many conjuring tricks against the personality of Godhead, who is the Lord of Yogamaya. At the sight of this, the people were filled with alarm and thought that the dissolution of the universe was near. Purport. The fighting enjoyment of the Supreme Lord with his devotee, who had been converted into a demon, appeared severe enough to bring about the dissolution of the universe. This is the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the wavering of his little finger appears to be a great and very dangerous movement in the eyes of the inhabitants of the universe. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Shakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here the demon was using all kinds of mystic tricks. Suddenly he became invisible in the fight, using his mystic tricks, fighting with the Lord of Yogamaya. So all mystic powers originate into the Supreme Lord. So what did he think? He was in illusion. The 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is describing that there are mystic powers that are coming from the different modes of nature. So there are mystic powers that come from the mode of ignorance, dark, and calling upon spirits and calling upon the goddess, the destructive feature of the Lord, basically Kali. And Mahakali. And so there are tantric rituals which are giving mystic powers coming from the mode of ignorance. Then there are also powers that arise from the mode of passion and powers that arise from the mode of goodness. It is said the mystic powers arising from the mode of goodness, which yogis may attain, are greater than the mystic powers that are attained from the lower modes of nature. The other day, and then there are powers that are coming from surrender to the Supreme Lord. Just a few days on our forest walks, someone brought up a biblical passage about Moses and how Moses threw a stick on the ground which became a snake, right? And that then, yes, his brother Aaron, right, also threw a stick on the ground. It also became a snake. But then the Egyptian magicians in the court, they threw sticks on the ground and they also became snakes. so. You think you're the only one who can make snakes. Huh? We can do that too. But then the snakes created by Moses and his brother, they ate the snakes of the Egyptian magicians. And so how does it all work? Yeah, this illustrates the point that mystic powers arise from different sources. And the mystic powers arising from the mode of ignorance will always be defeated by mystic powers from higher sources. What to speak of a pure spiritual source. So in this way, the Moses snake had a feast that day. What to do? That is the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Because when the mercy of the Supreme Lord is there, then Yata Yogeshwara Krishna Tata Shrir Visayo Bhuti Dhruvanitir Mama. That wherever the Supreme Lord is present, there will be victory. There will be opulence, there will be victory. So that is the nature of Krishna. There are many men in this world who are trying to accumulate wealth, but we know that Lakshmi is chanchalam, is restless, and that Lakshmi will never stay. Lakshmi will only stay with Narayan. Therefore, when Lakshmi is united with Narayan, there she will stay. So when good fortune comes to a devotee, then that is because Lakshmi is now united with Narayan. Like in the Bhagavatam, we find in the prayers of Queen Kunti, she is describing how there are all these blessings on their kingdom, and how the rivers are just full are very fertile and are bringing are fertilizing the land, how the forests are full of herbs, how there are valuable minerals and stones, and how the whole kingdom is blessed. And then she says, praying to Krishna, because you are glancing upon this kingdom. If you are not glancing, if your well-wishing glance, like looking, is no longer upon this kingdom, then all that opulence will disappear. So that is devotee. Hiranyaksha was relying on his power and on increasing his power. He had taken all the gold out of the earth to increase his power. Of course, he also was born with natural power, and therefore he was naturally proud of his power. Just like, the other day I mentioned that mankind sees himself as the crown of creation, as the greatest. And since I'm citing biblical examples, I may as well cite another one, and that is like in Genesis, when it comes to the creation, then at one point it is mentioned that man was given supreme dominion over all that be, and that man was in charge of the animals, right? And what did man do? Then they ate the animals, right? So that's pretty rough. I actually have a practical experience with that. That once, my former wife, she liked animals, and she had a dog and a cat and a whole zoo, and so there was this cat. Now I don't have much with cats, it's like nothing really much ever. And so she had this cat, and then we went on some trip somewhere, and then the cat, she put it with some friends. So then we're coming back, and to pick up the cat, and where's the cat? And they said, no, we took it to to the doctor, and they just, gave it a little, put it to sleep. We go like, what? Suddenly I was very attached to the cat. What? What? You did this to my cat, How dare you, right? That wasn't your cat. How could you, right? That wasn't your cat. I just gave it to you to look after. I didn't give you the authority to just kill it. So same thing. God, the Bible says God gave man supreme dominion over all that be. So here, take care of all the animals. And next thing is, God comes back. Where's my cat? So like, well, we ate it. It was very tasty. It's like, so this concept is clearly explained in the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, Balam balavatam chaham, the strength of the strong is meant to protect the weak. And that is a beautiful principle, right? Which is, not found in the demoniac species, right? There, the strength of the strong is to subjugate, to exploit to the max, right? Sucker. Whereas the strength of the strong is meant to protect the weak. And that is very noble. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita is not only providing us with interesting philosophy, like that the soul is eternal and all that, but it is also providing us a path of the heart. In India, we see in the villages how they have these white cows, and then there is the custom to decorate these cows with colored handprints, some henna on the hands, and then put some handprints on the cows. And it's very nice because it's really a symbol of like our protective hands, our well-wishing hands are on the cow, right? So protect the cow. So it is very nice to see that this culture, the transcendental knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita and of the Vedic culture is a culture from the heart, is a culture of kindness, is a culture of compassion, and that makes it a wonderful philosophy. So that is missing. That is missing in the demoniac mentality. So this demoniac mentality is very deep. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is speaking, sometimes he uses Kamsa and Putana as prototypes, and he speaks about the Kamsas and Putanas of this world, right? Seeing lots of Putanas and seeing lots of Kamsas everywhere. So that is interesting, and this demoniac mentality, of course, is very deep, and no one can say that they never fell prey to the demoniac mentality. It's like, I met one devotee in a wheelchair, and he told me. He said he knew why he was in the wheelchair. And he said that before Krishna consciousness, he somehow or other got into a habit of catching insects and pulling out their legs. Yeah. And it said it became something that he could not leave. He was obsessed by it. And he said so he used to still do it. While he was a devotee, sometimes he'd go in the temple, in the basement with a glass jar and catch some bugs. Yeah. And then one day, the truck came around the corner, and next he woke up in the hospital, and he couldn't move. And he knew why. He knew why immediately. It's quite a shocking story, and I didn't expect that from someone with tilak neck beads and all that, right? But then again, yeah, we can now easily turn around and point the finger, right? But then when we look in the mirror, then a little bit of demoniac mentality may also remain within us. And Ichadvesa Samuttena Dvandamahina Bharata, that the living beings in this material world are overcome by the delusion of desire and hate. Dvesh. Dvesh is then hate or envy. So who is free from envy? It's like, having a little brother is fun. I guess it's more fun being the older brother than being the little brother, at least for a while, until he gets you back after years. Yeah, so I was the elder brother. What to do? So, sorry, little brother. I guess sometimes it wasn't funny. What to do? It's like that. If you think about it, and if you really think about it, it was also funny, haha. But maybe not that funny after all. Yeah, so, parents see it in their children, like a little bit of demoniac tendency comes out. What can I say? I'm going now into the personal confessions, and all my criminal activities of my childhood. Who never stepped on an insect on purpose? Just feeling your power. The kid felt, stepping on ants, feeling what are these ants? Insignificant creature. So here's the demon enjoying his greatness, enjoying his power. As soon as there is power, yes, that is enjoyable. And it these days, primitive muscle power is not so much publicly appreciated. Right? If some brute comes there with his muscles and he's like misusing it, everyone is like, beast, animal of a man, degraded. But when we use the intellectual power, right, that's like, and there we are behind a computer. And, and suddenly a small man can become a giant. A small man can now speak to the world. A skinny little lady who has no strength at all can be almighty just on the keyboard. And she's powerful. How can she type with such long nails? I don't know, but she does. It's amazing. Right? Yes. So the power, we can see power corrupts. So it is said, power corrupts. And we can see this, it's like, also in our movement, you become a temple president, right? And something changes in you. It's very interesting. Something changes in your psychology, and suddenly you start becoming judgmental. So, no, this is all right. No, this is not acceptable. No. And suddenly judgment kicks in, and in the cause of judging others, what happens to compassion? Right. It very easily goes. As soon as we have a position of authority, what remains of compassion? And therefore we need people who are mature. What does it mean? Mature, it's a nice word for old, right? And having gone through it, right? Because when you're old, one thing I can tell you, you have suffered. You have suffered throughout your life. And it's no fun, right? And therefore, as we're aging, we become a little bit more compassionate. Right? We become just a little softer. And maybe we can still have some position of authority, but with compassion. That is very important. Otherwise, how can this movement survive if the leadership is not leadership with compassion? We're not getting paid. Yeah, I mean, in a job, I'll tolerate, right? Okay, boss, I hate your guts, but I love your money. Right? Ha, boss, that was very funny. Yes, boss. I want a raise, I want more money. Yes. So, all right, in such a relationship, I'll tolerate some bad treatment, but not in a movement where I'm a volunteer. I volunteered, and back then. Only kindness can then make me want to do it. Otherwise, why would I do it? Yeah, isn't it? If there's no, so this movement clearly runs on kindness. If there's no kindness, what could be the success of a movement of volunteers? Kindness means compassion. There's no compassion. Who's perfect? Who is perfect? I mean, 4 regulative principles. It's not easy. Not easy for a whole life and never slip. Right? That's not so easy. That's not so easy. So who are we to turn around if someone slips? Right? Say, oh, you've fallen sinful. So sinful. Yeah. And tomorrow it's our turn. Right? And even if we are so fortunate that somehow or other that doesn't happen, that's only good fortune. Yeah? That's only good fortune. Because we weren't born with wings. We weren't born with halos above our head. We weren't born as angels. Right? It's by compassion. It is because of compassion that somehow or other we made it in Krishna consciousness. It is by those who gave me transcendental knowledge, right, that I came to this movement. Yes, it is simply by someone who distributed a book to a friend of mine, which then stood unread on his shelf, which then I asked if I could borrow it, and which he then said, oh, you can have it, I never read that book. And there I had the Bhagavad Gita as it is. It had come into my life. It is the compassion of that devotee that went out early in the morning from the temple and stood on the street there, possibly with cold, wet feet and other parts of the body as well, and somehow or other dealt with grumpy people and met some nice ones as well, and distributed books, right? And somehow or other, it is by that compassion. So that is a level of compassion that changed my life. But there was no personal contact. There was no personal contact. Then there were devotees. Like I joined in Vrindavan, and by the time I came, there was a nice temple. Right? There was a nice temple. Now I know that Guru Das, right? That Guru Das made a big sacrifice there. Now I've read Guru Das's story, and Guru Das has described how he struggled and how he had to go to Mathura, to the Kacheri, right? Yeah, if maybe you never had to go to the Kacheri, but oh boy, if you have to go to the Kacheri, that's no joke. The court. Oh, there, outside, many lawyers are sitting at tables. And if you want some document, right? Yes, you have to go to them, put some money on the table, say what you want. Okay, they'll write it. Then it's illegible. Then you have to take that outside. And there is someone sitting with a typewriter at the side of the road. It's just a table and a typewriter. And there's a whole bunch of them. And you take the scribbled note to them, and they type it. Yeah, they first say, go buy stamped paper. Go buy stamped paper. You go somewhere, you buy stamped paper. They say, no, we don't have stamped paper. You say, I need stamped paper with a stamp on it. Official stamp is on the paper for 50 rupees. Right? That's what it said. No, we don't have the 50 rupee one. We only have the 100 one. Then you have to say, all right, I'll give you 60 rupees if you give me the 50 rupee one. Because then he can put 10 rupees in his pocket. Ha 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 ha. So he'll give you the 50 rupee stamp. Right? Okay, the kacheri, right? And I've been there, I've done that. The guy types it, sitting right next to the open sewage, types your legal document, and then you have to file it with a clerk. The clerk says, sorry, but it can only be filed between any time that is not now. You come at 11, say, no, it can only be filed from 9 o'clock till 11:15. Very sorry. So you have to come back tomorrow. And they say, oh no, please, take 20 rupees and just accept it. Okay. So, like this, you go through the court, right? And it's painful and it's suffering, and the bribes get bigger and bigger as the papers go higher and higher, right? And that's how it is, you know. And too much to get anything done, right? And Guru Das describes how it was driving him crazy. I understand him, because I also went to the Kacheri. So now, because I've been in the Kacheri, I can appreciate the sacrifice he made to create the Krishna Balaram Mandir so that I could join. Then I met Guru Kripa. Guru Kripa is a square jaw devotee, right? Square jaw means tough dude, you know. Guru Kripa has been in Nam, right? Survived it, and was just always a tough dude. But and Guru Kripa really got that name, you know. When Prabhupada took his bath at Brahmanda Ghat in the Yamuna, then all the devotees, they spontaneously started to pour water over Prabhupada and do an abhishek. And Guru Kripa was the first one to drink it. He was quick. That was Guru Kripa. He always took full advantage of the mercy, right? Whatever mercy you could get from Prabhupada. But it wasn't only the water of the Yamuna that he drank. When Prabhupada wanted a temple in Vrindavan, Guru Kripa saw an opportunity. Because he knew Prabhupada needs money for that. And he knew that he had some idea how to make money. And he said, Prabhupada, don't worry. I will bring you the money. And he did it. He did not just hollow words, but he did it. He did it, tough as he was. And it wasn't always completely legal, but, you know, whatever way it was done. One way was in Japan, and they had, you know, sometimes they forgot to give the expensive pens back from the businessman. Thank you very much. Anyway, what to do? It was a little rough around the edges, but the Krishna Balaram Mandir was built by his mercy, by his compassion, by him taking this austerity, taking this difficulty. So there is a lot of kind of indirect compassion, right, that made it possible for us to join this movement, to sit here, right? And we are indebted to all these personalities. The other day, I was with Krishna Kshetra Swami on Zoom, and we're talking about, he was asking how I became involved in Krishna consciousness, and he was talking about how he was, well, I told him that for one thing, I used to see these Hare Krishnas on Dam Square, right, in Amsterdam, and they were just jumping up and down, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. And I thought the ultimate manifestation of religious fanaticism. I mean, so one thing was the fired up brahmacharis, right? They try to be really fired up, but they looked so fanatic. I mean, it was like just incredible to me. So at least that's how I perceived it at the time. So it removed all doubts when I saw that. It removed all doubts. One thing I knew for certain, I'm never going to be like them. That was very, very clear to me. I want spiritual life, but not that. Right? So I was quite fixed in my thing. And maybe Krishna Kshetra Das at the time was one of these devotees on Dam Square, although I can't remember that he was one of the fanatic ones, because he's so relaxed. But the point was that yes, he made it possible, right, by joining the Amsterdam temple. And he said that he was sent to Amsterdam. Yeah? In those days we were sent everywhere. So he was sent to Amsterdam. And he was sent because he had a driver's license. Right? And now the devotees, they had one van. Later, anyway, there's a story about this van. I've just recently studied up on the history of the Amsterdam temple, because I did a TV interview. And so I know a lot about it now. So Krishna Kshetra Swami now was the driver of that van. And one day a van pulled up in my town, Haarlem, not Amsterdam, Haarlem, the original. And there, yeah, not New York, Haarlem, Holland. And there, this van pulled in, and a door flapped open, and all these little pink men came out, right? Now, there's a good chance that Krishna Kshetra Swami was the driver of that van, if I reconstruct history. Right? Probably he was the driver of that van. So the fact that I saw these extraterrestrials in my town, they were all, he drove them there, right? So just see how the compassion and how the mercy is actually there, and how what I call this, I call it indirect, because I never knew about that, but I've sort of reconstructed history, and it's a good chance that he was the driver of that van, because what happened next is there was a temple president, and this temple president used to be a criminal. Yeah, he used to be, and he told everyone how he used to be a criminal, right? I was actually German. Not that all Germans are criminals, but he was, somehow or other. Anyway, that doesn't mean anything bad about Germany. But he was, and then, he said he used to steal, and everyone thought, how amazing. How amazing, is this Krishna consciousness, that he has completely changed, right? And he used to give nice lectures, and he told the devotees, he said, I haven't really changed a bit, everyone. And then one day, he became the temple president. And then he took the van, he took all the cash, he took everything. First, he cooked a big feast. He cooked a big feast, and all the devotees ate it. And they were all knocked out from the feast and sleeping. And then he stole everything. That was part of the story. Yeah, well, what to do? So then that van was no more, right? That's the point of the history. Then there was no more van to drive, So, yeah, then they didn't have a van anymore. So in this way, I'm deducting that after really deducting the whole situation, that there's a good chance that while the van was still there and Krishna Kshetra was the driver, that he drove it to my town. Just see. That's how it went. Yeah, that's the full story. That now like a whole police investigation on the compassion, on the mercy. But I never appreciated all that. I did not. I saw all those, I took all those things for granted. There was a temple. Right? There was a temple. And it was just there. Right? It was just there. And that was, of course, Prabhupada's mercy. Yes, yes, yes. And the temple was just there. And that was there for me, of course. Yes. That temple was just there for me because, after all, I had a right, to the mercy, because I was a fallen, conditioned soul, a human being, and so on. So, and Prabhupada's causeless mercy came, and therefore I had a right, had a full right. And I never really appreciated all these people who contributed to the fact that that temple was there, and the fact that that everything I got by their mercy. That I never thought about so much. Not as much as I think about it now. Now I think about that more. Now I'm thinking really all the compassion of all these devotees who came before us, and by their service, right? Somehow or other, by their hard work and their surrender, wasn't so easy. Collected money, right? Like day in, day out, bad days, good days, this, that, their ups and downs, maintained this temple, developed a temple, purchased a temple, fixed it up, all the things that were done, right? And, yes, so, but I couldn't appreciate it. But, and I didn't like the devotees. Well, I was in Vrindavan there, the devotees were nice, but then I came to Amsterdam and I didn't like the mood so much because it was all about collecting, and they would never ask, how are you? They would ask, how much? So I didn't like that so much, when people would come up to me and say, how much? And you had to say, big. Otherwise you were in Maya. Yeah. So I couldn't relate to that so much. But then there was one devotee, and he actually asked, how are you? A little kindness, just a simple thing. How are you? Just a little bit of love. I was hankering for it. I needed some love, just someone to show me a little love. Just a simple question, how are you? Oh, thank you so much. Somebody cares for me. Terrible. Why? Because I had jaundice before I joined, and the result is that I could not eat anything with ghee or any fatty foodstuffs, right? I had to eat diet stuff because my liver was damaged. So why was my life terrible? Because I couldn't eat halva. It's bad. It's bad when you join the Hare Krishnas and you cannot eat halva. No, Akila, you can appreciate that point. That's terrible. Huh? There you go. Yes. Yes, so imagine. I joined and I couldn't eat halva. So it was a disaster. It was a disaster. I was having a hard time, come on, like to survive. But this devotee who had asked, how are you, was also cooking for the deities. And then what he did, he used to make these breads for me, big trays, a big tray with banana bread, banana bread with dried fruit and everything. And at this huge tray in my personal locker. And every once in a while I would open up the locker and break off a piece. I wouldn't even bother to cut it. I would just break off a piece and eat that. And one day there was a note and it said, "You eat like a mouse." Anyway, my point is not that I want to tell you all these stories, lifetime stories. I just want to illustrate a little bit how a little bit of kindness and compassion is what sustains us. And that is the power of the Vaishnava. The power of the demon, the power of his muscles. Man of steel. Right? Thunderbolts bounce off this man. Cold doesn't faze him. You boil him in hot oil. He just laughs at you and you think this can touch me. This, of course, austerity has its place. Austerity in devotional service. Austerity for the sake of pleasing Krishna. Whatever is required. Yes. No austerity too great. I liked Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada would go on a parikrama and would wear shoes. I followed that, I noted that point, right, that our founder Acharya was not the hero of barefoot walking on sharp stones, but that he would wear shoes. What a relief. Because I am the one, yesterday, someone in their kind compassion bought me one of these acupuncture mats, I said, oh no, an acupuncture mat. Right? And then yesterday, some of the devotees were showing how hard their feet were and stood on it, and were totally unaffected. We're not pointing at anyone. Anyway, it's like, but me going barefoot around Govardhan is something like, how do you say, 23 kilometers. I do it barefoot, but it's tough. Some people chant 32 rounds around Govardhan. Not me. I feel thousands and thousands of pinpricks on my feet, around Govardhan. That's and I try to transcend that. That's my Govardhan parikrama experience, to be honest. What to do, now you know. But I was enlivened to see that Prabhupada was not into that kind of austerity. He was wearing shoes and so on. But then we see Prabhupada for preaching, right? for preaching. No austerity too great. No austerity too great. So Prabhupada truly is the example of one who was never shied away from austerity, but one who was not looking for austerity for the sake of making himself hard. Hiranyakasipu performed austerities like no one had ever performed before. Everyone was watching. Whoa, what is going on here? I mean, and everyone became a fan. He stood there on his toes with his arms raised to the sky. We even read that at one point he stood for so long that ants built an anthill against his leg. And that was not all. The ants started to eat the flesh of his body. And they finished it. And only a skeleton still stood there. But Hiranyakasipu kept his life air within the skeleton. Then Lord Brahma came, and Lord Brahma came with his swan, threw some water on him from his kamandalu, and next moment Hiranyakasipu had a new body, beautiful and like very handsome and this and that. And then Lord Brahma said, yes, what would you want? Knowing well that he was dealing with a demon. And the demon then asked for his benediction. His benediction which was rooted in his pride. His pride was, I am powerful. So for that, I don't need any benediction. I don't need to ask for strength, because who can match mine? I don't need to ask for wealth, because who is more rich than I am? Richie is my nickname. Richie. Hiranyakasipu. Gold and soft bed. Sexy Richie. To translate it into modern terms, right? So, yes. Hiranyakasipu. Right? So he didn't ask for anything like that. It was just one little pinprick. It wasn't major. It wasn't major. It wasn't anything of great significance. It's just one little pinprick in his life called death. But he knew he's going to fix it. I mean, otherwise he did everything. But it's just this little complication, little death. But we'll fix that. No worries. So he asked Brahma to fix it. Brahma said, how can I fix death when I myself am subjugated to death? Then Hiranyakasipu said, well, I am so intelligent. I'm very intelligent. So like a lawyer. Then he asked benediction, that I will not die inside, outside, that I will not die on the land nor in the air, that I will not die from any any demon, any this, any that, any demigod. And he went over a whole list. And that I will not die, that I will not die from COVID, that I will not die from cancer, that I will not die from a heart attack, that I will not die from tuberculosis, that I will not die from a car accident, that I will not die by falling out of a window, that I will not die from overeating, which is a realistic thing, that I, and the whole list, right? And Sexy Richie, was ready for his benediction of immortality. But immortality what? Immortality in this domain, in this world of Sukh and Dukh? Do you want to live here forever? I mean, half-brain. Yeah. What's wrong with you, Sexy Richie half-brain? Right? That you want to live in this world. In this world forever? Don't you understand that here we are in jail and that the bars of the jail are sex life? Don't you understand, Mr. Kasipu? Right? Don't you understand that this sex life is the cause of our suffering? That this is what binds us to this body, which is full of Sukh and Dukh. Don't you know? like that? No, he didn't know. Hiranyakasipu didn't know. Hiranyaksha didn't know. And so they thought this was the perfection. It is interesting when we study the books, and then we come across interesting information. And at one point we come across information about Hiranyakasipu, and that his that Sukra Acharya was his was the guru of the demigods, right? The spiritual master of the demigods, of the Daityas, sorry, of the demons. And then we heard that that at the time of Bali Maharaj, Sukracharya was still the guru of the demigods. So he was the guru of the demons. Still the guru of the demons for a couple of generations. Interesting. And when we read a little more, then we read that Prahlad, the son of Hiranyakasipu, was a great devotee and all that, and we are worshipping him here on the altar. Then we read that Prahlad had a son, but apparently Prahlad's son was not really such a devotee. Right? So how's that? Prahlad's son, not a devotee? So, because there is a reference in the Chandogya Upanishad which describes that both the demigods and the demons, they sent a representative to Lord Brahma, also known as Prajapati, the original progenitor, to ask him what was the real goal of life, right? And it's very interesting because the demigods, they sent Indra, right, who is pious by nature and so on, we know that, and ready for austerity, sent Indra. And the demons sent Virochana. And they both lived like brahmacharis with Prajapati up there. So they did austerities, and they did many austerities, right? So now that's interesting. But still, Virochana was a demon, right? Was sent by the demons. So that's interesting. Now Virochana, he was a demon, but Virochana had been chosen for a particular reason. And the reason why he had been chosen was because he liked Brahminical culture, right? He liked, to kind of dress like nicely and like, how they dress. Had maybe some clippity-clop shoes, some of these peg shoes and everything. He liked the Brahminical dress, the Brahminical ways. He liked to give to Brahmanas. He liked philosophy. He liked all that, right? So that's why they chose him, because they knew we got to have, when you go to Brahma, he needs to do austerities, and he needs to pass it, Brahma likes Brahmanas, so, they chose a demon who was like a bit Brahminical in his behavior. That's interesting. And then he did long austerities, Virochana, and Indra also. And then finally Brahma appears. And Brahma said, and they ask him, first Brahma says, I'm very pleased with your austerities, and what benediction do you desire? And he said, we do not come for any benediction. We simply come with a philosophical question. What is the real essence of life? So Lord Brahma looked and he saw Indra, he saw Virochana, and he said, the goal of life is to enjoy the senses to its fullest extent. Virochana said, I've always known it. That makes complete sense, right? And And Virojana returned, and Virojana looked at an image of himself in a beautiful dress. Looked at his nice chadar, and when he saw his reflection in the water, he thought, that is me. And he was enjoying very much. And he informed all the demons. And all the demons, they followed suit. And they all looked at their own reflections, saying, that is me. How wonderful. What a beautiful sight. How amazing I am. I am more intelligent than others. I dress better than others. I know more than others. I'm a teacher. Naturally. Like this. Oh. And all this pride. This pride makes the heart hard. And it is this pride that is the root cause. The root cause. Pride is related to envy, to dvesh. And it is this pride in the demons that just becomes tougher and tougher. And the Supreme Lord exploits this. And therefore he plays with them, and therefore he gives them the opportunity where they feel, I'm so powerful, and here in Yakshafeld, now I got him. He thinks he can just defeat me with a club, but I have a few. That was just the beginning. We were fighting with clubs, but that was just the beginning. Now I will show you that I have a few other aces up my sleeve. And he fought with mystic powers. And in this way, he was seeing himself, his own greatness, and his pride made him hard. And due to pride, he lost his compassion. Due to pride, due to seeing himself as so great, he was not able to see how even the smallest creature in this world is also has a heart, also has a soul, and that the smallest creature is also experiencing pain and pleasure. Like you can see it, like after it's been raining and miserable, then the sun shines and all the animals are very happy. The birds are celebrating that, that the sun is now shining. How nice. Yes. Everyone is drying himself. Some fat pigeons, come out and start to get ready for enjoying. So the demoniac mentality is something that is cutting us off from compassion. And Vaishnava is about compassion. So if we still bring a few demoniac remnants in our mental hand luggage, right, then we may be able to follow all the Brahminical standards and so on. But where is our compassion? Where is our compassion? Where is our kindness? Ksama is mentioned, forgiveness is mentioned as the first quality of the Brahmana. Ksama. Compassion begins with ksama, with forgiveness. It's forgiveness. Gaur Govinda Maharaj, I watched a lecture of Maharaj yesterday, and Gaur Govinda Maharaj liked to the dramatic element in his lectures. He spoke out very strong. And he speaks in one lecture about a wolf. And this wolf is coming to a stream. And there is a little lamb. And this lamb is drinking water from the stream. Now the wolf says, now listen, you insignificant little creature. Do you realize that I am drinking water from this stream? Yes, Mr. Wolf. Do you realize that you are sticking your filthy snout in my drinking water? Right? Sorry, Mr. Wolf. You see, actually, I am drinking downstream from you. So it won't be a problem. Now it's enough. First you put your dirty snout in my water, and now you're giving me lip as well. Right? For this, I will eat you. That was the plan all along, wasn't it? Right? That was the plan all along. So it is this compassion that we have to embrace. Kindness. Somehow or other. Conquer with kindness. It is kindness that will be the key to the success of this movement. It will be the key to our success in spiritual life, because this kindness comes back. When we are kind to others, they will be kind to us when we need it. Yeah? Because that day will come. That day will come. The day will come when we need some kindness. Right? And it will all come back. Therefore, kindness is the key to the success of this movement. Besides, of course, the essence, the holy name and all that, but it's kindness that makes the difference. Because that is the Vaishnava quality of compassion. Just a little kindness goes a long way. Thank you very much. Any questions? Any comentarios? Yes.
Tells Brahma that never again bestows such blessings to anyone. So, but then we read in the Bhagavad Gita, we should understand that demigods can only give blessings because it is sanctified by the Supreme Lord. How can we understand this?
Well, they give blessings because they are empowered by the Supreme Lord. Just like the temple president is empowered by the GBC. And it doesn't mean that that the GBC is doing things directly. But when the temple president does something, they are responsible for it. Right? They've empowered this person, so they have to take responsibility for it. In the same way, the Lord empowers the demigods. They are highly empowered, right? And then Lord Brahma, most empowered as the Pitamaha, the grandfather of the universe. So they have independence. Everyone has independence. And Krishna doesn't just take that independence away. He could, but he doesn't. He doesn't. He also lets them learn from mistakes. But of course, it's sort of, if the Lord would not have saved the day, right? Then with the blessings of Lord Brahma, Hiranyakasipu would have become very, very difficult to kill. And the universe would have suffered for a long time. So, okay, the fact that the Lord intervened saved the day, saved the destiny of a lot of suffering beings. So, Lord Brahma, who has been given this power to be the agent of the Lord, has with that a great responsibility. Anyone who is given a position of authority immediately has a great responsibility. And I'm telling stories today, and one story is that I was in Vrindavan, temple president, And early in the morning, 6 o'clock, someone knocks at my door. And I opened the door, and there was Radha Govinda Maharaj, a sannyasi, and I was a grihastha at the time. Right? And he knocks on my door, and he offered obeisances really quick. Right? So I also offer obeisances. Then he already stood up and walked away. The next day, again, bang, 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 knocking on my door, and again, there he is, down on the ground, real fast. I'm following also on the ground, and again, he was up first, and zhoof, gone. The third day, I was ready, so I bounced back up really fast, and I was up before he could walk away, and I said, Maharaj, what are you doing? Why are you paying obeisances to me? I'm a householder, you're a sannyasi, it's not proper. He says, no, it is our duty. After all, you are our father. Now, I never thought of it like that, I stood there like, mouth open, I'm his father. I never saw myself like a father. I saw myself, I'm the temple president, but like his father. And just this sense of like caring for him, and being kind and caring and looking after his welfare. He was teaching me the Indian way. They have their ways, these Indians, right? So, but the point is there that as we have responsibility, we have to, use that very carefully. And very thoughtfully for the welfare of all. So Lord Brahma should have used his power to give benediction for the welfare of all, and should not give benedictions like that, because so many living beings would have suffered. So many would have suffered if the Lord did not intervene. Therefore Lord Brahma should have been more thoughtful and more aware of his power. Just as I, as a temple president, should have been more aware of my power, that I could, as a temple president of a big temple, make or break the lives of many devotees. That their shelter in this movement was depending on me. And I could just say, well, no, you can't stay in that apartment. No, sorry. Oh, but we have no place. Well, sorry, that is the policy. Kindness, compassion, right? Being very sensitive to the welfare of everyone. Should have been Lord Brahma's consideration, should have been my consideration as a temple president, and is what's going to make the difference in this movement. Of course, not blanket compassion without any principle. That's not compassion at all. That's sentiment. Right? That's sentiment. No, there may also have to be corrective measures and so on. But always for the welfare, looking for the long-term welfare of all. So it takes a lot of wisdom. As soon as we have some authority, we need to become wise. Very quick. And Lord Brahma should have been more wise, because he's very learned and deeply realized.
One thing that distracts us from being considerate and, I guess, being aware of our wisdom which we have received is that we don't become distracted by happiness and distress. And distress, at some point, it has the nature that it brings us back very easily to our senses, but it seems very difficult to be sober and considerate in the face of happiness, which comes in devotional service a lot. So how do we stay sober in intense happiness?
This is an interesting point. And in the Madhurya Kadambini, we see how where Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is speaking about this. And he's speaking about Tarangaranjini, enjoying the side benefits that you get from devotional service. You get so many things. And as you are staying in this movement, we may not become automatically so much more Krishna conscious, maybe a little bit automatically, but slowly, progressing very slowly. But we go from being a public neophyte, the new bhakta, right? New bhakta, new bhakti. Oh, that's the new bhakta, I'm a new bhakta, right? Until we have seniority, yes. And then when we have seniority, then so many benefits come. So to enjoy all these, it is one great danger, a great anartha, to become distracted by all these side benefits that we get from devotional service. Therefore, we have to be careful not to accept more than we need. It's like for example, if one has disciples, it is said it's the duty. There's no limit to what a disciple can offer within the four regulative principles to the spiritual master, right? And he should offer. We know very well. Oh, they picked you up in a Rolls Royce. And Prabhupada said, well, should have been a golden one, right? Yes, there's no limit to what can be offered. But as it is the duty of the disciple to offer, it is also the duty of the spiritual master to know when to refuse. He should refuse. So we have to be a little careful. Therefore, we keep ourselves within an ashram and in simple conditions, simplicity. So then we get a little bit. That simplicity gives us some strength, gives us some to not become so quickly bewildered by the material happiness that comes anyway on its own accord. It does come on its own accord. Yeah. But then when we are a little simple, then we remember, well, now some happiness came, but it's not, that's just the material energy. But if we take this happiness and try to keep it, and then add more to it, and then build up a whole life, of things that give us happiness, then we may easily slip away from the essence, right? Which is, it's all going to be taken away at death, and this life is short, and let's use it to the maximum extent to make spiritual advancement. Yeah, so this simplicity helps. That's an advantage of renunciation. That gives us some protection. Anyone else? Akila Prabhu.
Sometimes one has to make decisions that appear not to be kind.
Yeah. No, I don't believe in that. Sometimes you have to make decisions not to be kind. Like, for example, you are a temple authority and sometimes you have to throw somebody out, right? Somebody is too much and he has to go. Okay. That is true, but because if people are not committed to Krishna consciousness, right, and to the standards of Krishna consciousness, or exploit them, break them, misbehave, like this way or that way, then it is a problem. Right? They upset the whole safe atmosphere that we live in, the safe, protected atmosphere we live in. So sometimes you have to take strong measures against an individual who upsets the spiritual security of the community. But even if we would have to go to the ultimate extent, ask someone to leave, to not live in the temple, then we should not leave it there. We should not just throw the person out. We should look at a way that this person, offer the person a path, and say, well, maybe for you it's not right to stay in the ashram, but maybe you should just be situated somewhere near the temple, right? Living in your own private place, and do devotional service from there, and just somehow or other, it is okay. Not everyone is meant to be a monk, right? You can look in the world, not everyone is a nun or a monk, right? And yet there are many good Catholics out in the world. So in the same way, Hare Krishna is just beginning. Not everyone's going to be in a temple. We have to, instead of throwing the person out, let's try and set up the person in another situation, so that it can go on. So kindness can always be built in any. If someone steals, we've had many devotees over the years, right? I mentioned it in the lecture. Someone went with the van and the money. That has happened many times, right? We know all stories, etc. And then, so they go away, and they go away with, a big lump of money, and then 2 years later they come back. Yeah? And they say, oh, Prabhu, please, I want to come back. And now what are we going to say? You ran off with 40,000 Deutschmarks, right? Right? We remember that very well, right? I was there at the time, right? So what about it? Well, yes, 40,000 Deutschmark was a lot of money in those days. Still is 20,000 euros. So then we may say, all right, there is a way back, but you have to do something for it, right? You have to pay back this money, right? And we can help you to go and collect and this and that, but you have to pay it back. In other words, it's not that we just automatically write it off. Oh yes, yeah, come in again. Oh, by the way, we need a new treasurer. Would you want to become the treasurer? And no, forever you can come back. We forgive, but we don't forget. Right? We forgive, but we know you put your hand in the till once, We make sure you stay away from money. Right? Oh yes, and you have to pay back what you stole. Come on. So kindness is not just sentimental, but we should never cut someone off from devotional service. We should always find a path, Like I often tell this to temple authorities when devotees want to be initiated, right? And the temple authorities says no. I always tell them, you cannot just say no. No, you're not qualified. You cannot do that, right? You have to give them a path, right? You can say, well, you're not, according to our sense, you're not ready yet, but then you have to do these and these and these things to become ready. There always has to be a path and devotionals to come there, to reach there. So this kind of kindness that's the kindness that has to be there. So it's not always simple, not always black and white, and just that we just sit there all sentimental and yes, do any damn thing, and of course, we are Vaishnavas, of course, forgiveness is our first principle. We forgive anything and everything and just come and do it again. Right? No. But there has to be a path of continuing in devotional service and rectification. Is that a good answer? What do you think?
That's the true answer. The best answer. True.
Okay. Anyone else? Otherwise I stop now. No. It's late, huh? I'm
Hare
sorry
Krishna.
to keep you so long.
Hare Krishna.
I'm going to make this very short and quick.
It's not on. So, Hare Krishna. I would like to ask from the other side, if you as a devotee experience cold-hearted people as authority.
I don't hear.
If you experience that you are dealt with cold-heartedly, but of course we understand that it have to be taken with humbleness. And what to do, or how can we deal with it if we see that someone else was treated and this is hurting us?
Anyway, first of all, let's look at ourselves. But you asked two questions in one. First question is when it happens to us, Trinadapi Sunicena is the first attitude, and the second thing is there's always someone who is more compassionate. Just go find the compassionate devotee. There is one or two. And talk to them, and then maybe they will help you a bit, like that, you just find someone to help you. And the same way, when we see someone else who is going through, who's getting the cold shoulder, as you call it, who's not treated nicely, if we are not in the position to help them, refer them to someone who maybe can help them. Like that. There's always someone in this movement. There's always a door where you can knock for shelter. I hope so. I hope there's always going to be someone where you can go for shelter. Okay, the end. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.